Hey everyone, and welcome back to Calm Coding. I'm Cody.
And I'm Katie.
And we're diving deep into cybersecurity today.
That's right. You've sent over some really fascinating articles.
Yeah, they paint a pretty intense picture, I gotta say.
Ah.
All these headlines about cyber attacks have got me a little on edge lately.
I hear you. It's been a busy year in cybersecurity,
Yeah.
and things seem to be escalating pretty quickly.
So let's jump right in.
Mhm.
One article you sent mentioned the UK being hit particularly hard this year.
Absolutely. The UK's National Cybersecurity Centre, the NCSC, just released their annual review, and the numbers are pretty startling. They've investigated more than twice as many cyber attacks this year compared to last year.
Wow, double the attacks.
Yeah.
That really puts things into perspective. I guess it's not just media hype then.
Not at all. And it's not just governments and massive corporations being targeted anymore.
Right.
We're seeing universities, manufacturers, even charities being hit.
Oh.
Basically, anyone with a digital footprint is a potential target.
Speaking of targets, one of the articles you sent mentioned a U.S. government contractor, ENGlobal Corporation, getting hit with ransomware.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty serious.
It is. Ransomware attacks can be incredibly disruptive. They essentially lock you out of your own systems and data until you pay a ransom.
Right.
Which is never a guarantee that you'll regain access.
Oh, wow.
The fact that a government contractor with presumably high security standards was compromised is a wake-up call for everyone.
It really shows that no one is immune, even those who work with sensitive information. And then there's the whole shadowy world of state-sponsored hacking groups, which adds another layer of complexity to the situation.
You're right. These groups, often backed by nation-states, are incredibly sophisticated and well-resourced.
Yeah.
Their goals can range from espionage to disrupting critical infrastructure, and the potential consequences are huge.
There was an article about a group called Salt Typhoon linked to China that's been targeting U.S. telecoms companies.
You're right.
That sounds like something straight out of a spy thriller.
It does, doesn't it? But this is real life, unfortunately. Salt Typhoon has been using sophisticated malware to spy on customers' activities. And experts believe they're also exploring ways to disrupt critical infrastructure.
So not just stealing data, but potentially causing real-world chaos. That's pretty terrifying.
It is, and it highlights why cybersecurity is such a high priority for governments and businesses around the world.
And Salt Typhoon isn't the only group we need to be worried about, right? There was another article about Earth Kasha, also linked to China, and they seem to be exploiting vulnerabilities in a lot of popular software.
Yes, Earth Kasha is another major player in the cyber espionage game. They're known for exploiting vulnerabilities.
Okay.
Basically flaws in software code that allow them to bypass security measures and gain control of systems.
Right.
This can give them access to sensitive data or even the ability to take control of critical infrastructure.
So we've got nation-states playing a dangerous game of digital cat and mouse. But there are also new threats emerging all the time. Like that article you sent about Bootkitty and the LogoFAIL vulnerability. Those seem particularly worrying.
They are concerning developments. Bootkitty is a new type of malware called a bootkit, and it's the first one specifically designed to target Linux devices.
I'm not super familiar with bootkits. What makes them so dangerous?
Bootkits infect the boot process of your computer,
Okay.
even before your operating system loads up. This makes them incredibly difficult to detect and remove, even with the complete system reinstalled.
So they're like a digital parasite that burrows deep into your system.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It's not a pleasant thought, that's for sure. And Bootkitty is actually related to a broader vulnerability called LogoFAIL, which affects both Windows and Linux machines. It allows attackers to replace the harmless logo images displayed during boot up with malicious code.
Wait, so even the logos on my computer could be weaponized by hackers?
Yeah.
That's pretty unsettling.
It is, and it underscores just how vulnerable our digital systems are. It's a constant arms race between those trying to protect systems and those trying to exploit them.
So basically, no operating system is completely safe, and we need to be extra vigilant even when it comes to something as seemingly innocent as a logo during boot up.
Exactly. Awareness is key. And speaking of awareness, let's move on to another major threat vector: phishing attacks.
Okay, phishing. I know it was when hackers try to trick you into giving up personal information, but these days the scams are getting so sophisticated. How can we avoid falling for those traps?
You're absolutely right. Phishing attacks have evolved far beyond those clunky emails with bad grammar. Take this Rockstar 2FA kit we discussed earlier.
Right.
It can create fake login pages that are incredibly convincing and even bypass multi-factor authentication.
But isn't multi-factor authentication supposed to be really secure? I thought that was like the gold standard for protecting your accounts.
It is a powerful security measure, but no system is foolproof. Hackers are constantly finding ways to exploit weaknesses. With Rockstar 2FA, they're essentially creating a perfect replica of a legitimate login page, making it difficult even for tech-savvy users to spot the deception.
So it's not just about being careful about suspicious emails. Even if an email looks legit, we can't assume the login page is safe.
Exactly. Always be wary of any email that asks you to log in, especially if it creates a sense of urgency or seems unexpected. Instead of clicking the link in the email, go directly to the website or app using your bookmark or a trusted search engine.
I see. So always navigate directly to the site instead of clicking links in emails. That's a good habit to get into.
Absolutely. And remember, a legitimate organization will never ask for your password or sensitive information over email. If something feels off, trust your gut instinct.
Speaking of trusting your gut, one article you sent really highlighted the psychological aspect of cybersecurity, which I think is often overlooked. It was about North Korean hackers using LinkedIn to steal millions from a crypto exchange.
Right. That's a fascinating case study. It shows how even seemingly innocent platforms like LinkedIn can be used for malicious purposes. The hackers in that case posed as recruiters, targeted an employee with a fake job offer, and even sent a malicious coding challenge disguised as part of the interview process.
Wow, that's really sneaky. So even when you're networking or applying for jobs online, you need to be on high alert.
Absolutely. It's crucial to verify requests and be wary of anything that seems too good to be true. Check the recruiter's profile, the company's website, look for any red flags, and don't hesitate to ask questions.
Okay, so we need to be skeptical, verify everything, and trust our instincts. But all this talk about cyber attacks can get pretty overwhelming. It's easy to feel like you're constantly under threat.
I understand. It's a delicate balance between staying informed and not letting anxiety take over. The key is to focus on what you can control.
So what can we control? What are some practical things we can do to protect ourselves?
Well, we've already touched on some key strategies. Strong passwords, being cautious about emails and links, and verifying requests. But let's delve into a few more specific actions you can take.
Great, because I'm all ears.
First and foremost, keep your software updated. Those update notifications might seem annoying, but they often contain critical security patches that fix vulnerabilities hackers could exploit.
So those vulnerabilities we discussed earlier, those flaws in the software code, updates are like patching those holes before the hackers can get in?
That's a great analogy. It's one of the simplest yet most effective ways to protect your devices and data.
Okay, no more ignoring those update notifications. What else?
Consider using a password manager. It might seem counterintuitive to store all your passwords in one place.
Right.
But reputable password managers use strong encryption to protect your data. Plus, they generate strong, unique passwords for each of your accounts, which is practically impossible to do manually.
That makes sense. It's like having a digital vault for your passwords with one master key that you need to remember.
Exactly. And speaking of encryption, have you considered using encrypted messaging apps like WhatsApp or Signal?
I've heard of them, but I mainly just use regular texting. Are they really that much more secure?
They can be, especially if you're concerned about privacy. Encryption scrambles your messages, making them unreadable to anyone who doesn't have the decryption key, even if they intercept the message.
So it's like having a private conversation that only you and the recipient can understand, even if someone is listening in.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm definitely going to look into those.
And here's another crucial tip, especially in today's interconnected world. Enable two-factor authentication whenever possible.
I've heard of that. It's basically an extra layer of security, right?
That's right. It usually involves receiving a code on your phone or email that you need to enter in addition to your password when logging in. This means that even if someone steals your password, they can't access your account without that second factor.
So it's like having a double lock on your digital door.
Exactly. It's a simple but effective way to make your accounts much more secure.
All right, we've got strong passwords, updated software, encrypted messaging, and two-factor authentication. I'm feeling a lot more empowered already. What else can we do to build that digital fortress around our data?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore further after a quick break.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. From understanding the latest cyber threats to practical tips for protecting ourselves, it's clear that cybersecurity is a multi-layered challenge that requires a proactive approach. But what are some things we can do to make this a part of our daily routine?
You bring up a good point. Integrating security practices into your everyday life is key. It's like building good habits. The more you do it, the less you have to think about it.
So it's not about becoming a cybersecurity expert overnight. It's about making small, consistent changes that add up over time.
Exactly. And a lot of these changes are surprisingly simple. For example, one easy habit to adopt is to regularly check your bank and credit card statements for any unusual activity.
That's something I already do, but it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
I guess the key is to make it a regular habit, like checking your email or social media.
Precisely. And while you're at it, take a look at your social media accounts too. Check your privacy settings, review your connections, and be mindful of what information you're sharing publicly.
It's like a little digital decluttering every now and then. I like that.
Exactly. And this brings us to another important habit, being mindful of the links you click, especially those that come through email or social media messages.
We talked about phishing earlier, but are there any other red flags we should be looking for aside from suspicious senders and grammatical errors?
Yes. Pay close attention to the website address itself. Make sure it's a legitimate site before entering any personal information. Look for the HTTPS at the beginning of the URL and make sure there's a little padlock icon in the address bar. Those are good indicators that the site is secure and your information will be encrypted.
Got it. HTTPS and the padlock. Those are my new best friends.
And here's another simple but effective tip. Log out of websites and apps when you're finished using them, especially if you're on a shared computer or using public Wi-Fi.
So don't just close the window.
Yeah.
Actually log out.
Right. It only takes a second, but it can prevent someone else from accessing your accounts if they have access to your device.
It's like locking your front door when you leave the house. Just a basic security habit.
Exactly. And speaking of public Wi-Fi, that's another area where a little caution can go a long way.
I'm guilty of using public Wi-Fi all the time. Coffee shops, airports, you name it.
Yeah.
It's so convenient, but I know it's not always the most secure. What are some things to keep in mind?
If possible, avoid accessing sensitive information like bank accounts or email while on public Wi-Fi. It's simply not as secure as your home network. If you do need to use public Wi-Fi, consider using a VPN.
A VPN. That's one of those things I've always meant to learn more about.
A VPN, or virtual private network, creates an encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet, making it much harder for hackers to intercept your data.
So it's like putting a disguise on your internet traffic.
That's a great way to put it. VPNs can significantly enhance your security, especially when using public Wi-Fi.
I'm adding research VPNs to my to-do list.
Hmm.
Anything else about using public Wi-Fi safely?
Be aware of your surroundings. If someone seems to be watching you or trying to eavesdrop, it's probably best to move to a different location or wait until you're on a more secure network.
It's all about trusting your instincts, right?
Huh.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly. It's always wise to err on the side of caution when it comes to cybersecurity.
Well, this has been a truly enlightening deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm definitely going to be putting these tips into practice.
That's great to hear. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Cybersecurity is an ongoing process of learning and adapting.
And it's something we all need to be aware of, right? It's not just for tech experts anymore.
Absolutely. In today's digital world, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I think we all feel a little more calm and confident about navigating the digital world.
My pleasure. And thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into cybersecurity. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay safe out there.
This has been Calm Coding. Until next time, happy coding.